Welcome to all participants. Sriman Venkatanatharya Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Varyome Sannidhattam Sadahradi Santaschiranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhuvanatrana Padapangajanenavaha. Ramanujadaya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanatharyam Vande Vedantadeshikam Vande Tadranganathasya Manyam Padukayor Yugam Unnatanam Avanatirnatanam Yatra cha Unnatihi. So in this third chapter, Prabhava Paddhati of Sri Padukasahasram of Sri Vedantadeshika, we go to the next verse stanza. So we are now going to see verse number 24. So let me recite the 24th verse. Sakritapi bhuvanesmin sharginah paduke tvam upanishadanukalpai ruttamaangai dadhanah narakamiva mahanto nakamullanghayantah parishadi nivishante praktananam gurunam. Now, all of us may know the Charma Shloka of Sri Ramavatara. Sakrideva prapannaya tavasmi tijayachate abhayam sarvabhutebhyo dadamyetat vratam mama. In the 18th canto of the Yuddha Kanda of Srimad Ramayana, Valmiki has given a succinct account of what is the most important policy of the scripture, namely Srimad Ramayana. We understand Vedaha Prachetasa Sasit Sakshad Ramayanatmana. The scripture became the epic Ramayana. That's what we understand, and therefore to understand the most important policy of Srimad Ramayana is Sharanagati Shastram. Giving protection to the surrendered is the important policy. So the Lord Srimad Narayana in the incarnation as a human being with the name Rama gives us a concession that it is enough if we surrender at his divine feet just once. A single prayer by falling at the divine feet of Rama being named in another way, namely Sri Ranganatha, in the Archa form in the temple of Sri Rangam. So it is enough if we fall at his divine feet once. Sakritapi. So in Kali Yuga, as all of you may know, that Nama Sankirtanam will fetch us all the advantages that we get with the hard efforts in all the previous eras. And therefore, Bhuvanes mean in this world, so it is enough if we worship the divine sandals once. Sakritapi. So how do you worship the divine sandals? So you go and bow your head at the sanctum sanctorum. The priest in the temple, the Bhattacharya in the temple, the Archaka in the temple places the Shakhari on the head of the devotee. So Sharngina Paduke. So this is the second time when you come across the same epithet for Lord Sriman Narayana. And the point is, we must all believe that it is Divya Mangala Vigraha, the most auspicious physical, supernatural frame of the Lord in the form of either Periya Perumal in the lying pose or the Nam Perumal as the standing figure. So we will always should feel, we should feel that it is aprakrita tirumeni, as we say in Tamil, rather supernatural form. We must not think of the God made up of some material like 5 metals, panchaloha, the calcium, the sudai or sunambu, chunam we say, or the stone, shila, and so on. So once we go in a crowd even to have the shatari on our head, so what do we do? What do we do? Dadhana, we carry. All the devotees carry on their head, Uttamangaihi, by the heads. The head is called Uttamangam in Sanskrit. The best limb of the body is the brain, as we say, or the head. That's why we need a lot of protection to the head, and therefore we are asked to wear helmet. So Uttamangaihi, Uttama Angam, the best limb. And now having born BORNE, the Shatari on the head, so what happens? We become so wise, as though we have studied all scriptures, and even the last part of the scriptures, namely the Jnana Kandam called Upanishads. So Upanishads contains the most important wisdom. So Upanishad Anukalpaihi. So our heads are full of knowledge, the right wisdom, the spiritual wisdom, the maximum knowledge. So when we do that, so we become great in our status. We become great in quality. We are honored everywhere. We are respected by everyone. And therefore, as we did pray in the earlier verse, as you see there, Anitara Sulabham Tadhama Hastapacheyam, we saw that the advantages that accrue from the worship of the sandals are the 4 purposes of human life, namely dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. We are encouraged for doing the duty properly. We are made to earn money through righteous means, and we are made to develop right desires, and then we finally aim at the beatitude, emancipation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death, finally. So what happens when we do a lot of good deeds here, and when we do not expect any fruit from or anything in return from doing good deeds, we become great. So when we become great, so even when we are offered the heaven, what you call the place of gods, 33 crores of gods, we don't want it. So we want to cross over Nakam Ullanghayantaha, Nakam heaven. So we are not ready to occupy the heaven, though the world is called a pleasurable world, all full of happiness. full of all happiness. Heaven, as we say. So even that heaven can be experienced here by our good deeds. And again, we never stop our doing bad activities also. We have inclination to do bad activities. While doing bad deeds, we are supposed to reach the hell. So the hell is also at hand, is ready for us to occupy. But we don't want that hell also. And now, after doing, let us say that we are all good people. Let us certify ourselves that we are all good people. And when we do the good deeds, we are supposed to enjoy the fruit of our good deeds in heaven. And even the heaven seems to be a hell for us. Why? Because we want to go higher. We want to go to the God's place. If it is Lord Shiva, it is Kailasa. If it is Brahma, it is Satyaloka, the world of truth. And if it is Sriman Narayana, it is Vaikuntham, Sri Vaikuntham. Now what happens? They place themselves, Nibishante. So we want to enjoy heaven by moving with our teachers, preceptors, guides, friends, mentors. And therefore, we want to follow all the previous preceptors and the present preceptor also. Parishadi, in the assembly of the preceptors, Guru Nam Parishadi. So, what kind of preceptors? Praktananam Guru Nam, the former preceptors. We have come across a lot of names of preceptors. We have seen some books also. And we have heard of some topics dealt with those preceptors. So in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, as a Vishnu Bhakta, the devotee of Lord Sriman Narayana, we come across some preceptors like Nathamuni, famous preceptors, Nathamuni. Then we have Yamunacharya, called in Tamil Alavandar, Kuresha, called Kurattalvan in Tamil, and now Vedantadeshika. You have a big list also available. Vedantadeshika gives a list of names. So starting from your parents, please remember, your parents are more important. They are the first preceptors. Mother is the first preceptor, teaching you to talk beautifully from the childhood. The second is father. So they are the gods available with us to propitiate, to adore, to bow our heads to, and do namaskaras. So parents are the most important preceptors. And therefore, Vedantadeshika says in his Tamil, the Deshika Prabandham, he says, Ennuyat Tandalittavarai, Ennuyat Tandalittavarai. We are born to a father and a mother. So parents, Ennuyat Tandalittavarai, Sharanam Bukki, we must prostrate before our parents. If they are nearby daily, so we must get the blessings, their blessings. Even when we do not fall at their feet, they are always are our well-wishers. But still, we must make them happy. So a person is called a son or a daughter when he makes the parents, when he or she makes the parents happy. So we have a special word in Sanskrit, and this is used for Lord Krishna also. Dasharatha Nandana is for Rama. So Nandanaha is name of a son, one who makes the parents happy. Dasharatha Nandanaha. Yashoda Nandanaha, we call Lord Krishna. So he makes her even faster mother happy. Devaki Putraha, we say. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. So we have a word Devaki Paramanandam. The bliss, the highest bliss has been given to Devaki because of the Lord's birth. And therefore, the parent must be made happy according to their wishes. And therefore, what happens? Now you have a good example in Srimad Ramayana, an incident which all of you might already know, namely, an old lady, an elderly lady, waited for a long time for the arrival of Rama, of course, with Lakshmana in the forest. So while Rama was in the search of Sita after Ravana's abduction, so Rama and Lakshmana reached the hermitage of Matanga Maharishi, a great sage called Matanga, in which from the childhood a girl was serving without any gap of time, sincerely in the sage Matanga. So that was, Shabari. Shabari is a good name. Also, some people have named their children as Shabari. So Shabari waited for a long time. She loved her preceptor. She had high respect for her preceptor. And therefore, when she was asked to wait for having a blissful darshan of Sri Rama, Rama was very happy to meet her. And then, Shabari offered what we call the sweetest fruits of the hermitage. She selected the fruits of the trees and then offered to him. And then Rama asked her, what do you want? She said, I want to go to the preceptor's world. She didn't want to go to heaven. Nobody wants to go to hell. Everybody may want to go to Vaikuntham or any other God's place. But she said, I want to go to the place where my former preceptors live. So this is a good example of, so Vedantadeshika reminds us the story of Shabari in the last line. Parishadi nivishante praktananam gurunam. So to revel in the company of the former preceptors, it's a boon. And therefore, learning more and more. She was not a literate person. She could do only the cleaning of the hermitage, mopping of the hermitage, and so on. But still, so you have, she has the service mentality. And the sincere service of Shabari took her to the preceptor's world. And that was Rama's blessing to her. So let me recite 24th verse. Sakritapi bhuvanesmin sharginah paduke tvam upanishad anukalpairuttamangai dadhana narakamiva mahanto nakamullanghayantah parishadi nivishante praktananam gurunam. We go to the 25th one. Now, in this particular 25th verse, so again Vedantadeshika, as he did in the first chapter, Prabhava Paddhati, does what we call Naichanusandhanam, self-abnegation, that is lowering one's own status in front of the or in the presence of the Lord, so that He will take pity on us, He will sympathize with us, He will show mercy on us more and more. As Sabari was an illiterate, but still knew how to do service to the sages. In the same way, so he says, now Vedantadeshika says this. How? Shamadama gunadanto danta vaideshikanam sharanam asharananam madrisham madhavasya padakamalamidam te paduke rakshamasit anudaya nidhananam agamanam nidhanam. So repeatedly we are getting the ideas of the adoration by the scriptures on the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha and on the divine sandals of Ranganatha. So when the scriptural sentences refer to the divine feet of Lord Sriman Narayana, it amounts to equally adoring the divine sandals. Now he says, we are all foreigners. We are abroad. We are outside our nation. Vaideshikanam. So we become Vaideshikaha. We have gone out of the country. Why? Because we do not know the culture of our own country. We have not studied deep into the religious books of the country. We don't know what patriotism is. Desha Bhakti. So we don't practice all the values, ethical values that we have developed in our country's tradition. So we don't control our sense organs. Shama. Shama, the word is control of sense organs. Shama. Dama is the patience. So there are other qualities, namely guna. There are so many auspicious qualities that we must aim to possess. But initially, Shama, Dama are more important. And Danta also. Another way of controlling our actions. So another quality of controlling our actions. So in all these matters, Udanta, Shama, Dama, Guna, Danta, Udanta. In the matters related to the self-control, as you see in Bhagavad Gita, the word samyami. You can even say yami. Yami is yamaha meaning control, restriction. So we have restraint, self-restraint. So self-control. So shamadama guna danto danta vaideshikanam. So how do you say that Vedantadeshika includes himself and even us? So he says madrusham. So people like me, when we recite the Padukasahasram verse 25th of this Prabhava Paddhati, then we also say that we are included. So we are one of the people who are not familiar with the self-control, the control of activities, the control of any matter. We don't have good qualities as compared with others. Sometimes others are better than us. Yesterday I met an old aged lady. She was, I think, 85. She came home. She came with her grandson. And then the grandson was entrusted to me for learning a lot. She said, teach him whatever is good to him. When she talked in a low tone. She did not shout. That is what we call control of tongue also. You must not imagine that the person nearby is a deaf person. You should not cry. You should not vociferously present your ideas. You must always be humble to present. I was surprised, and she didn't feel that I am a handicapped person, rather orally challenged. The way she talked in a very low tone, and it was soft, sweet conversation. Why I say this is, only such elderly people are the fine examples for us to follow. But since we do not know scriptures, we have not understood the values, we have not followed the morals, because we did not control ourselves, we don't have many good qualities, and we don't have control of activities. The only shelter that we have to resort to is you. Hey Paduke, idam padakamalam is Sharanam. So the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha is the shelter for us, is the refuge for us. It's a succor. Why? Because since we do not know many things that we ought to know, Asharananam, we have no other shelter to go. We have no other resort to reach. So we are shelterless. We are like orphans. Because when we need help, many do not come forward. When we approach anybody, there is no surety that the other person will help us surely. Therefore, Sharanam Asharananam Adrisham. So people like me have no other shelter because we are alien to the values, morals, the self-control of sense organs, the control of activities, control of tongue, and so on. So whose divine feet will be the refuge? Madhavasya. So when we fall at the divine feet, we must always remember Ma and Madhava. Ma Mahalakshmi, goddess Ranganayika, and Dhavaha, her husband, namely Sri Ranganatha. So Madhavasya Padakamalamidam. Now, when Vedantadeshika says idam, this pair of lotus feet, meaning that he is in the temple, he is in the sanctum sanctorum, he is near the feet, the divine feet. Otherwise, he would use the word tat. So tat padakamalam, that divine feet like lotus. So the proximity is shown by the word idam, this. So whenever we refer to an object far away, we say that or it. Whereas here, padakamalam idam. So whose divine feet? Ranganatha, Madhavasya, Pate Paduke. So Paduke, ho Paduka. So te your, te is in Shashti Vibhakti. That is what we call possessive case or genitive case. So we have got a lot of meanings for te. So you would have heard about Sahatau te, Sa te taha. Then you have Tvam yuvam tam ta yuvam mishmanvahat, Tubhyam te, Tubhyam te is there. Then you have Tavate, you have in the Shabda and declension. So many words which te. Te means minimum 3 boys, and te means 2 girls. Te means voivo you are. Te means for you, and so on. So here it is your, te your, voivo you are in singular. Paduke, all divine sandals, Raksham Asit. So don't take it as past tense. So from the beginning to the end, from, of course, no beginning to the no end, that is Raksham Asit. So the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha are being protected by the divine sandals. That you please remember. Though the word Asit looks like a past tense, so it's a past tense verb. But let us take the present tense meaning also. So Raksham Asit. So from the beginning, for all the adventures or miracles, rather Aghatita Gatana Samarthyam, the skill of what cannot be done was done by Lord. So Raksham Asit. So it was protected. What was protected? The pair of divine lotus-like feet. Padakamalam idam Raksham Asit. How? Because it is the support of, it is a fulcrum or the substratum for Nidhanam, Anudaya Nidhananam, Agamanam Nidhanam. So just now we have been seeing the idea that the scriptural sentences adore the divine sandals, and therefore Anudaya, there is no beginning for the scriptures. Just like the Lord, Anadi, we say, Anadi Nidhanam. Lord has no birth or nor death. He has no beginning or end. Even we, as individual souls, Jivatmas. So Jivatma has no beginning and Jivatma has no end. We can even be proud that we are like gods. So we have no death. The soul never dies according to, when you study the full Bhagavad Gita, you can understand Atma never dies. The soul never dies. So Anudaya Nidhananam, Nidhanam death, Dhanam money, as you know. I would say if somebody is moneyless, penniless, then he looks like a dead person. So Nidhananam, Agamanam, Nidhanam. So no beginning and no end to the scriptures. Just like God. The scriptures came out of the exhaling air of the nostrils of the Lord. And they were recorded orally by intuition, by the sages, coming from the sound coming from the sky. And now we have in black and white in the form of books, the scriptures. The scriptures are beginningless and endless like the Lord. And divine sandals are adored by those scriptures. That means the divine sandals are ever adored by the scriptures, as the divine sandals themselves, being attached to divine feet of Sri Ranganatha, are beginningless and endless. But whereas as individual souls, we are born here as human beings, and one day we say that our life comes to an end. By that time, of course, we only the body dies and not the soul. And therefore, so whatever birth you take, either earlier or later, every time we are not aware of learning fully. We don't want to gain knowledge in every birth. And therefore, we always have the right duty or the compulsion to seek the refuge in the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha. And consequently, we have to fall at the feet of the divine sandals. So we go to the next one, 26. So let me recite the 24, 25. Shamadama gunadam todanta vaideshikanam sharanama sharananam madrusham madhavasya padakamalamidante paduke rakshamasi anudaya. Can even combine with sandhi. Rakshamasi anudaya nidhananam agamanam nidhanam padakamalamidante. Paduke Rakshamasi Danudaya Nidhananam Agamanam Nidhanam. We go to verse number 26. Parichita Padapadmam Paduke Ranginastvam. We saw the word Sharngina Paduke 2 times earlier. Now we are talking about the name of Ranganatha, Ranginastvam. Rangi. So we call him in Tamil Rangan. So in many ways. Kasturi Rangan, Parimala Rangan, Pandu Rangan. So we have got a lot of names. So the Rangan is ending in Tamil, whereas Rangi, so Nakaranta, again there Nakaranta, Rangin, Nakaranta Pullinga Shabda, Ranginaha Paduke, Parichita Padapadmam, Ranginah Paduke Tvam, Paduke Ranginastvam, Tribhuvana Mahaniyam, Sadaram Dharayantaha, Nija Shirasi Nilinam, Devi Mandaramalyam, Nigama Parimalaihi Te, Vasayanti Iva Devaha. So let me recite again with this Sandhi. So Parichita Padapadmam, Paduke Ranginastvam, Tribhuvana Mahaniyam, Sadaram Dharayantaha, Nija Shirasi Nilinam, Devi Mandaramalyam, Nigama Parimalaiste Vasayanti Vadevaha. Now you understand that the repetition of the idea is all gods, all demons also, all human beings, they always visit Srirangam, worship Sri Ranganatha, his divine feet and divine sandals. Because Srirangam is considered as one of the 108 Divya Kshetras, when you call it holy places, what you call the Mangala Shasanam has been done by Alvars. And therefore, so when you have the 10 apostles of out of 12, except Madhurakavi Alvar and Sri Goda Devi, namely Andal in Tamil, so all the other 10 have sung on Sri Ranganatha. And therefore, it is called the Divya Kshetra, the holy place. So there are 108 as we calculate. The 2 are not reachable now, namely Sri Vaikuntham and the Milky Ocean. What we call the Pararupam, as called in Sanskrit name Vasudevaha, or the other 4 names Vasudevaha, Sankarshanaha, Pradyumnaha, Aniruddhaha. These 4 names constitute a single form called Vyuha, where Lord is in the Milky Ocean, lying on the serpent bed Adishesha. So apart from these 2 forms, so in the Archa form we have 106. So for all the 106, that is more than the greatness of the Vaikuntham or the Milky Ocean, Kshira Samudram. So we have Srirangam as the first Divya Kshetra. And therefore all the gods, all the demons also join the devotees and come and pray to Lord Ranganatha, and they pray to the divine feet and divine sandals also. They all come and offer many things. Demons also want to be more powerful than the gods, and therefore they come and pray. You know, so many demons who have performed a lot of penance towards gods and got better boons, and they always give trouble to the gods by getting the boons from the gods. And therefore, so you find that there is always a crowd in Srirangam. So now we are talking about the crowd of gods, the group of gods, the group of the whole host of gods. So Devaha. So when they come to the temple of Sri Ranganatha, they come at any time. the demons come at night time for Srirangam. And the gods come during any time, day or night. They don't have the distinction of day and night. So they are always bright in their personalities. So they don't have the problem of day and night. They come at any time to worship Sri Ranganatha, his divine sandals and divine feet. So when they come with their offerings. So they want to offer garlands, flowers to Ranganatha's feet. So they bring from heaven the mandara flowers. So when they come with garlands, so the flowers strung into garlands by the wives of the gods, so they come mandara malyam. Look at the third quarter, you find mandara malyam. It is said to be yellow in color, and they are heavenly flowers. And we have, you have heard about Parijata. Parijata, which we say here as Pavaramalli flower here. Pravalamalli. Pavaramalli is Pravalamalli. So it has white petals and brown stem, red stem. Say. When you shake the tree, all the flowers will fall down. Naturally, in the wind also, they will fall down. So we call it Parijatam. But Parijatam is the name of the divine tree, which otherwise we have the name Kalpaka Vriksha or Kalpa Vriksha. Kalpaka Vriksha is a smaller tree, but whereas Kalpa Vriksha is a big divine tree, which yields all our desires, as it is said. So we've got great objects in heaven, so valuable things in heaven. And therefore, these gods bring, in order to adorn the God, Sri Ranganatha, his divine sandals and divine feet, garlands of mandara flowers. So since they come from heaven, so how do the flowers appear like? They have the smell of the scriptures. Since a happy world is full of scriptures, even our house, our home in this earth must also be sweet smelling with the scriptures. Why? We must all recite scriptures every day. Unless we recite scriptures every day, we tend to forget them very easily. We tend to say wrong accents of the scriptures. When we practice them, we should never forget them. That's a rule. So daily we must recite the scriptures. The scriptures will give what you call, as you say, when you visit a holy place, vibration. The vibration of the scriptures must be available at every home in our land. And there also we are all not doing our duty properly. Here the mandara flowers in the form of garlands have got the smell of scriptures. Scriptures have sweet smell. And while you open your mouth and say the scriptures, there must be a sweet smell, rather an inspiration to make you get peace of mind. For example, you play with very big speakers, loudspeakers, a cinema song that will create a headache, whereas a light tune of the scriptures, which all we say, will never create any health problems. The sound waves that occupy our home will always do good to us. There will be what we call a congenial environment. The atmosphere will be pure. Suppose we perform fire rituals. When we pour ghee into the fire, the smell of the ghee from the fire which comes out as a smoke, will always remove the pollution in our home. You must have heard about the Baroda incident. So only a house was spared where there was a person doing fire rituals daily, Nitya Agnihotri. His house was not troubled by the pollution. And therefore, so you find that the gods bring Nigama Parimalaihi Mandara Malyam. No, they are also fond of wearing flowers, especially the wives of the gods also adorn their heads with the flowers. So they bring flowers to offer to Ranganatha, the divine feet and divine sandals. And also they have Nija Shirasi Nilinam. They also have garland, one on their head. So Nija Shirasi, on their own head. Nilinam Mandara Malyam. They have the garlands adorning their locks of hair. Nigama Parimalaihi Te Vasayanti Vadevaha. Now, having come to the temple to worship Sri Ranganatha and offer the Mandara garlands, they seem to Vasayanti, what you call Utpreksha, poetic fancy. The author's, poet's imagination that the whole atmosphere is sweet smelling. As you go into the sanctum sanctorum, rather you stand at the entrance, so you have the camphor smell lit as light, the incense sticks which are sweet smelling for the sake of worshipping what we call dhupa asanam. We offer dhupa asanam, and therefore we have incense sticks, that is what we call asaphoid, we call it Shambirani. And then so sweet smelling objects are lit up, and then we have good smell. So the entire atmosphere must be good so that we have peace of mind, controlled mind, so concentration on worship of gods. So Nigama Parimalaihi Te Vasayanti Vadevaha. The gods come and add sweet aroma to the sanctum sanctorum. So what do? So they come and have the shatari, the paduka, the divine sandals on their head placed by the priest. Sadaram dharayantaha. So after offering the flower garlands, they respectfully bow down their head. Sadaram. So with a lot of regards, so what do? Dharayantaha, they hold, they wear, they bear. What? Tvam dharayantaha, they bear you, they hold you on their head. Of course, for a few split seconds. The priest of the temple, the Bhattacharya of the temple, places the shatari on their head. They feel very much honored. They feel very much blessed. So it is a blissful experience of the gods in Sri Ranganatha's temple, having come to worship the Archa form, the idol form, idol worship. What is the greatness of the divine sandals? Tribhuvana Mahaniyam. They have heard, the gods have heard about the greatness of the divine sandals. How? Tribhuvana Mahaniyam. It is respected in all the three worlds they heard. Tribhuvana Mahaniyam. How did you know? How did they know that it is honored by all the three worlds? Because in the Vamana Avatara, as a dwarf, the dwarf, namely Vamana, grew up to Trivikrama in the universal form. And all the divine, all the worlds have been touched by the divine feet and the divine sandals. And therefore, they could understand. When Lord Creator anointed, what did Abhisheka, Thirumajjanam, or Thirumanjanam as usually we say in Tamil. She did anointment to washed the divine feet of the Lord. The water from the Kamandalu, from the hands of Lord Brahma, the creator. Not only one Brahma, many Brahmas. Each creator has got their span of life as Kalpa Koti Kalaha. So 1 crore of Kalpa. Kalpa is a combination of 4 yugas, Krita, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. So lakhs and lakhs of millions and billions of years. So many Brahmas have washed the divine feet of the Lord with the water from his Kamandalu, and that water became the Ganges from the right thumb of the foot, right toe of the foot. And therefore, so all the gods could understand that the divine feet of Ranganatha and the divine sandals touched every head of the entire triad of worlds, 3 worlds. Tribhuvana Mahaniyam. So how did these divine sandals attain the greatness, such greatness? Because they were always in close connection with the divine feet of the Lord. Parichita Pada Padmam. Pada Padmam. The divine feet of Sri Ranganatha are like lotus, bright, beautiful, tender, soft and cool. And then Parichita Pada Padma. They are familiar with that. Since the divine sandals are always attached to the divine feet of Sri Ranganatha, they also have the greatness of being honored by the gods from heaven, human beings from the earth, the demons from their world, and so on. So all of them, without any exception, worship the divine sandals. When they come to offer the garlands of mandara flowers available in heaven, being the what we call the most valuable flowers, being so sweet smelling divine flowers. So those divine flowers make the sanctum sanctorum with a sweet smell. So in that way, so we see here the within 1.5 hours of time in the evening, on one fine evening, Vedantadeshika, the author, only with a light spirit of competition, composed this Padukasahasram with 1008 verses. And I remind you the idea which he said in the first chapter. So he could roll out thousands and crores of verses. But to limit for the sake of time, so only 1008 came to be the small illustration of the greatness of the divine sandals. So with this, so we can have a discussion if you want, or we will go to the next one. We will take up the next session for the 27th verse. And so just a note for the alankara, the beauty, the embellishment that Vedantadeshika employed. And it is natural for a born poet to easily compose verses, unlike a labored poet who wants to become a great poet by his efforts. Then he will always find it very hard to look at the dictionary, remember or recall to his mind the vocabulary in Sanskrit and form words, and then form the prosody, the vrittam, the meter, and then he must also try to count the units of time called matra, 1 second for a small vowel and 2 seconds for long vowel. and what you call, you have for the 1 second for the light syllable and 2 seconds for the heavy syllable. So you have to calculate matras according to what you call matra chandas, matra vratam, and then compose. Then you must add alankara, the beauty, then dhvani, the what you call the beauty of suggestion will come into that. So, but it is natural for a good poet, which come automatically when he composes. So, Bhavabhuti, a great dramatist in Sanskrit, wrote 3 dramas. So, in one of his dramas called Uttar Ramacharitam, he says, Rishinam Punaradhyanam Vacham Arthonudhavati. He writes the words, poet writes the words, but meaning gets attached to them. The meaning runs after these words if he is a sage, rather a good poet. Rishinam Punaradhyanam Vacham Arthonudhavati. So it's of course Rama and Rama, Rama's sons, Lava and Kusha, and that is called the best drama after Ramayana's all adaptations. And Bhavabhuti is a great celebrated author. So let me recite the last verse of the Padukasahasram. So, Jayati Itiraja Sukti, Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali, Tadubhayadhana Trivedim, Avandhyayanto Jayanti Bhuvisantaha, Kavitarkika Samhaya Kalyana Gunashaline, Shrimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha, Ramanujadaya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam, Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedantadeshikam. Very good. Shubhasri wrote, it's a Manasika Darshanam. That's what I said in the earlier sessions. Virtual tour of Srirangam. Virtual tour of Srirangam. Experience the bliss by coming to Srirangam, coming to the temple, coming to the Sanctum Sanctorum. Go along with the gods in the verse number 26. Go and dash with the gods. The gods would have offered the flowers of Mandara in the form of garlands, and you enjoy the scene. You literally see them in your vision. So you can have any opinion with regard to this function. So the ideas. So we have, I don't know whether some newcomers are here, but I'm happy that there are Panchavimshati, 25. And Vyoma Linguistics Lab Foundation will be happy to know the daily attendance. And they are watching whether the participants are regular and are they interested in listening. With this, now today my preceptor has come to Srirangam, my Acharya. So we have a Taniyan about him. His name is Sri Ranganatha. Sri Ranganatha Yatindra Mahadeshikaha is the name of my preceptor, the present preceptor, 46th Pontiff of the Ahobila Mutt. And we say the prayer to him every day, what we call Taniyan, an individual prayer, especially devoted to him. Vedantadeshika Yatindra Katakshalabdha Trayantasara Manavadya Gunam Budhakriyam Narayanadhyayati Dhurya Kapabhishiktam Sri Ranganatha Yati Shekharam Ashrayamaha. He is called Sri Ranganatha Yati Shekhara, the chief of the monks, recluses, called Sri Ranganatha. So why I say this is, as Shabari wanted to go to the preceptor's world, Nivishante Praktananam Gurunam Parishadi, we saw in the previous verse. Parishadi Nivishante Praktananam Gurunam. So when you hear a Taniyan of my Acharya, that the Taniyan will have the mention of the names of the previous preceptors of the present pontiff, present preceptor. So Ranganatha is the name of the present preceptor, and his previous preceptors were Vedantadeshika and Narayana. So Narayana Yatindra Mahadeshika was the immediate previous preceptor, predecessor, and the earlier preceptor was Vedantadeshika Yatindra Mahadeshika. So it is that 44th preceptor who built the famous temple of 237 feet high, the highest in the Southeast Asia, and it is little 1 foot higher than Shiviliputtur Andal's temple of Rangamanna, Patapatrashai. Thanks to you, all of you. We will go to the next session from tomorrow. So let me stop sharing the Padukasahasram text. So thank you so much for your careful listening. Okay. Now let me wind up the session and then we'll meet again.